bring back something for Digital Racket from that show. Now let's get to Ian Fellerman. Ian Fellerman of Bashful Hips. I got an email from him. The thing about my email that I get contacted from lots of people, a lot of singer-songwriters, a lot of hip-hop, which I actually really like the hip-hop. The singer-songwriters not so much, but Ian Fellerman is an electronic music, and that's the very first important part, electronic music singer-songwriter from the Colorado area. And I checked out his stuff because Bashful Hips, I didn't know what to expect from it. But as soon as I got to it, I really liked it because I could tell where he was coming from. And I was reading lyrics. I thought, these are really interesting lyrics, especially for electronic music, because they're very personal and they're more like stories. And I could get a feeling of what he was doing. It reminded me back when I was younger that I would try to write poetry, but it wasn't really poetry. It was kind of more of trying to explain myself in words that I would put down in short sentences, which some people think equals poetry, but if you read my stuff, I don't think you'd call it that. I don't even know what happened to a lot of it. I had reams of notebooks. I've lost a lot of them. I kind of feel bad about that now because I feel like if I went back to those today, I might pull those out and I might really, like discover, understand who I was then, like my identity, because put some perspective on it and look back at your time at that, and have some thoughts. But I don't have those. Ian Fellerman. I'm hoping he actually does keep those things. I'm hoping that he keeps doing what he's doing because, what you'll find out from him is that he's a very dedicated artist. And not only that the art that he's creating is really important to him. So we had this conversation, and we're going to break it up in two parts. Altogether, it's about a half hour long. And I play some of his music along the way. So before we get into the interview, I'm going to start playing a song with Bashful Hips. This is a song called Teeth Clink.
And I'll stop going out, and you'll take your internet dating profile down, and I'm excited to see how this whole thing works out. And I like the way that our teeth clinked in the front seat. And I like the way that our teeth clinked in the front seat. And I enjoy spending time with you, but it's hard, 'cause I always have so much to do. I'm learning to sink into the feeling of you. And I like the way that our teeth clinked in the front seat. And I like the way that our teeth clinked in the front seat.
So when did you start the Bashful Hips project?
I first started recording Bashful Hips in June. I played in a band. It was more of a punk rock band called the Bashful Creatures for 5 years. And it was like a very labor-intensive project where I would spend 6 to 9 months writing and recording, 14 songs. And that fell apart right when that new record by Bashful Creatures was supposed to be released. And I was kind of lost and decided that I was going to start a new project, and I didn't really know. I was coming from a background where you had to make physical copies, and you had to do tours, and you had to do all this marketing, and you had to do a lot of promotion, and it all cost money, and I was really sick of it. And I was like, I'm just going to do this for free. I'm going to do 5 songs and see if I feel any better. And I did it, and then I decided, I was like, well, I'll do it again. And then I decided to do it again. And then I kept going. Every month I just continued to write and record, but in a different vein than I used to, not instead of stressing every little production quality about it, instead of letting the art be the art that it is. And it's really a moment in time recordings. It's really it's done in the sense that it's done right there and then, and that's the final product. It's not a overproduced product whatsoever. It probably takes about 6 to 8 hours to create the music, and it probably takes about 45 minutes to do the vocals. But the lyric writing from it is that I write every day, and then I go back to the notebook when I sit down to do the vocals, and then read from that and try to pick the best lines from what I've written. And it's really from my journal. So I write every day, so it makes the lyric process very easy.
Where did your title Bashful Hips come from?
I was incredibly depressed, like not feeling good at all, and I was thinking about how to make myself feel better. And one of those things was I needed a new project to work on, so I made a list of the most beautiful nouns and the most beautiful adjectives to myself, and that's what came out of that. I put those two together, what sounded the best. Which is kind of lame, but then in the other sense of it, Bashful Hips in a lot of ways means to me too is that a lot of people are dancing in general is kind of a scary thing for a lot of people. It's kind of about moving your hips, and sometimes the most attractive thing is on the dance floor is not the girl who is grinding with every single dude. It's the girl who's kind of bashful. Who has that nice dance. So, in some ways, I look at it like that.
Yeah, I like that. It's funny because obviously I think that I can be a bit of an introvert, so I probably definitely have bashful hips.
Yeah, exactly, and so do I.
But I don't think that the interesting
more attractive person.
Yeah, the other part of that though is that unfortunately I don't think it's the same for women to see us that way.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I can agree to that. If I literally don't go out at all. I'm not a party person, and I recently started to force myself to go out at least once a week. What I've found is I can act stupid, meet some people, and then I'm kind of over it, and I just want to go home. get back to making music or doing whatever I do.
So describe your music to someone who's not familiar with it or hasn't heard of you before.
I describe it as noise, which I know is not like the best way to describe music. But the reason why I call it noise is that I don't really feel much kinship to other musicians here in Colorado is one thing, and then I feel like I have nothing in common with AC/DC whatsoever. And I have nothing in common with most music right now. I know some people are able to find similarities. I don't really see their similarities that they pull out. But the way I describe it is I call it noise in a pop structure. So there's a verse and a chorus and a bridge, but then there's these extreme visceral sounds, and that comes off more live than it does on the record. That are supposed to hurt, and it's kind of a masochistic type sound. Where it's very poppy and nice, and then it's supposed to hurt.
Don't fall in love with lovers. Lovers are loners. Don't fall in love with lovers. Lovers are loners. They are just, and it's just that you have.
And that hurt, to me, has always felt good. So, I think bands like Joy Division, and my favorite band is this band Shoo Shoo, it's spelled Xiu. I think they're very talented at doing that. And I grew up on Sonic Youth, and even though they're lighter on that, I come from a punk rock background, so electronic music was never really my thing. But I found that you could do some crazy things with synthesizers.
It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you've ever heard of the artist, but it's Cassio Tone for the Painfully Alone.
I am a huge fan.
So that's about the closest I can compare it to in something in my mind.
Yeah, I saw him on his last tour. It was either 2010.
Yeah.
he played Denver, and I actually went and saw Pavement like 2 nights before, and then I went and saw him, and Cassiatone was so much better.
Well, his stuff has kind of gone in a little more of a hip-hop vein mixed in with what he does, which I kind of like.
Yeah, and actually, that's besides like noise music, I listen to a lot of rap music, but not your typical rap music. I like everybody that's on the Andicon label. So I'm a big fan of Y. I'm a huge fan of this guy Serengeti. I think it's just amazing. Who did a record with Cassiatone. That's really, really good. It's called Family and Friends. So I listened to it on repeat this summer. It was like the only thing I could listen to. And he did half the production on it. And then I'm a big fan of Themselves, and then, putting the average stuff like KRS-One and Gangstar and all, and, anything Guru does, anything DJ Premier did, and also like Aphex Twin and that sort of thing I think is great. But, I grew up on like Fugazi and the Pixies and Rites of Spring and Black Flag and all those bands. And once I started working with computers, my taste changed, and I'm still a huge fan of punk rock. I don't listen to it as much as it is, but I think there's still some roots of punk rock in my music.
Right. Your lyrics, they come across, especially for electronic music, which sometimes seems to be maybe cold or distant. Yours are the opposite, where they seem deeply personal and maybe too honest, if you're writing them honestly, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely been a really it's been hard with the honesty aspect in my life, especially with people I know on a personal level. Definitely has created awkward situations and made it more difficult in my life. And I know it verges on exploitation of my own life, but it's really how I feel. And I feel like the lyrics in the songs is how I feel 24/7. Or maybe 23 hours of the day, I feel that way. And part of the thing with the electronic music and why I try to make the songs so fast, and I try to make the songs short, and I try to I don't work very heavily on overproducing it, is because electronic music can seem incredibly cold. And when you make every little tiny thing perfect, it takes away completely from the record. It doesn't seem human, and so I like the hisses and the pops. And literally, I recorded the first. I just moved, but I recorded the first 8 records in a closet.
How big of a closet?
Literally a closet. It was a very, very tiny closet, and I recorded it. I used to have my old band. There's a lot more money behind it, and I had a big studio and 8 billion guitars, 8 billion pedals, and I don't have any of that stuff anymore. I literally recorded these songs in a closet, and to tell you the truth, they're a billion times better than anything I wrote. And there's something way more personal about a record that was recorded in the space that you live in than in some cold studio.
It seems like maybe you had a lot of stuff going on in your head to get out, but what made the idea think that I can do this one record a month?
Basically, what happened was the first record was I'd done Abyssal Creatures for a long time, and the first record was me being like, it was over. Like, I was done making music. I didn't play music for a couple months, and I didn't feel like I could create anymore, and I was going to make 5 more songs and then be done. And what happened was I started, and then I couldn't really stop. When it comes to creativity, I've always thought there's like 3 different types of artists. There's artists who are technically very good but not very creative. There's the artists that are creatively good but not technically good, and I fall into that. And then there's the people who are creative and technically good, and I wish I was that. But when it comes to creativity, I don't have a problem sitting down and knocking it out. It's not a chore. It's not a job. It's really one of the only ways that I feel better is to create. It's not exactly therapy, I would say. I would say it's more it's more of a way for me to express myself, because I go like 48 hours without like any social contact if I don't go to work.
So is that how you find time to do it? Because that's what I was just thinking, is how do you find the time?
Well, I live a very very much a life of solitude. I don't have many friends. I'm not in a relationship anymore, and I'm not into sports. I'm not into football. And it's basically it's the only thing that I do. So a lot of people, it's hard for people to understand. They're like, don't you go out? Don't you do things? And I'm like, I'm an artist. I write and I make music and I lay down vocals. That's what I do.
Do you think that, and this will be a little tough for you, I think, by the way you create your music, but do you think there's like a couple songs that you could tell people, like, if you really want to listen to my music, check out this track? Or what do you tell people as far as what to listen to with already having 8 albums out?
Yeah, with 8 records, I always say start with, the most present record that is out. And I try to make I always try for them. And I've done a lot of like very lo-fi music videos. And I think always the music videos are a good place to start at, because they're definitely I definitely pick for the music videos the most accessible songs on the record.
So how do you make a music video? I hadn't watched any of your videos yet.
I do have a collaborator who did a record with me. He did Volume 4. And he goes by Dark Matter Jesus, and he's directed a bunch of videos. He did a animated video recently, and which is very cool of him. And then I set up I come up with an idea. I pretty much follow the trace of the song, and start shooting. And try to portray the song in the same light, but I do try to put some more humor into the music videos. And whether it's the type of humor that's like that this is so ridiculously downer music that the video can be a little bit funny and show some irony in that is sometimes is kind of my goal with the videos a lot of the time, is because the music can seem really down, is to have the videos be a little bit lighter.
How have you been? Well, I was never looking for someone else, just a little bit of your help. So you race the finish line to find someone new. You have to be done all by yourself.
So your latest release, it's called Divorce, and so I was wondering about where you got the title Divorce. What
I was in a relationship for a long time, and she was in the band with me, Abyssal Creatures, and I was 17, and I'm 23 now. So this is the first time I've been single in my entire life, and it's basically Divorce is I think the best record I've made in my entire life. It's definitely it was basically done in 3 different sessions. The vocals were and basically we don't have any contact anymore, which is hard. It's really hard that we don't talk. So I wanted to get everything off my chest and how I felt during this whole time, and I really feel like the first 7 volumes were leading up to Volume 8, and I was really able to get it out there. And I've been dreading making the breakup record forever. I never wanted to make that record. I didn't want to focus on it, but it always kind of leaked in there a little bit. And finally, I was just like, I'm just going to put it all out there and get it off my chest. And it's definitely the most revealing record. There's no literally all the lyrics come directly from my journal. And so the lyrics aren't written to be lyrics, and they're not written as poetry. They're written from my journal. So it says everything. So everything that happens in the record is all true. And my hope for the record is the exact opposite of Volume 7, which was I was going to write a record with what I wanted my life to be like, is what Volume 7. So Volume 7 has these very uplifting lyrics, and what I want my life to be like. And I wrote it in the tense of, instead of I want, that my life was already like that. And then instead of that manifesting itself, more or less, I didn't feel so great after, and Volume 8 came out. It's definitely intense. Crazy is not a great word, but it's definitely like extreme. It's wicked extreme. For the first line of any record, if the first song in a record has masturbation, self-harm, and manic depressive behavior in the first song, you can tell that it's going to be quite a trip of an album.
So are you okay kind of closing the book on that one and moving on to the next one so quickly?
Yeah, it's definitely, the record that I'm working on now is definitely different in the sense that it's only piano, drums, and textured synths, and it's more punchlines. I changed my form of writing instead of long form into kind of short form. And yeah, it's definitely it definitely was a closing chapter on a lot of stuff. It's a roller coaster, but I definitely, when the record was finished, I didn't feel so much like I didn't have anything in my life and that my life was completely empty. I felt that I just made the best piece of music and the best piece of art that I'd ever done in my entire life, and that made me feel better, and it gave me some pride. And then it getting played on the radio and that sort of thing made me feel a lot better, and it made me feel like that other people feel the same way, and that it's not so life is not so isolating. There's a dichotomy between electronic music and life, in the sense that I've been making electronic music that's completely, that wants to connect with other people. And in this day and age that we live in, most everything is about disconnecting from other people. Even though it's double-speak in the sense that it's social media and it's more of a social world, it's actually way more antisocial.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And, for instance, I went and saw a show a week ago, and 5-6 years ago, during the set break, you talk to people next to you, I went and stood at the back of the stage and looked out, and all I saw was glowing lights and people on their cell phones. And it's very interesting in the sense of that it's the more social and technology that happens, the social technology that happens, the more disconnected we are. And then I think that reflects in the music also, in the sense that I'm making electronic music, but I'm putting out the most honest lyrics and honest things I could say all together.
So you make it all available on your website for free, and a lot of artists, I also do a lot of electronic artists that actually do that as well, but they rely on their touring and their merchandise to kind of provide their income. Have you figured out a way that you'd want to make some money from it, or is this just?
Well, I've got limited edition copies up there for sale, but I made I was in this band again, this band, the Bashful Creatures, for a long time that was all about making money. Even though it was a weird noise punk rock band, it was all about how can we make a buck, how can we make it more commercial, how can we make it more accessible, how can we make the more touring shows better. I made this conscious decision with Bashful Hips that if there's any money to be made, it'll come in, and there's been a little bit, but I made a conscious decision that I was gonna work a day job, and I was gonna let my day job pay for my life, and I was gonna let my art be my art, because there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make when art is your income. And I'm at a point right now where I'm not willing to make that sacrifice, and I don't know if I'll ever be willing to do that. So the whole rock star or professional musician idea and lifestyle is not something I'm really trying to attain. It's really about the art itself. And sure, I'd like to make money off of it, and sure, I'd like not to work, but at the same time, I don't want to make the sacrifice to placate to the lowest common denominator in my art, because I might as well not do it then. Because the rest of the day and the rest of the time that I'm not creating, I'm trying to get along with everybody else, and I kind of don't. And with the art, I just feel like if I have to sacrifice things to make it more, to make money off of it, it's not going to work, and it's not going to make me happy. But if I just let the art be its art, and my paycheck be my paycheck for my day job, I can keep the two separate, and I can continue to make the art that I want to make. Sure, I'd love to, not work and tour and just be a musician, but at the same time, it's more important to me to make art that I truly feel that I can stand behind 110%.
That's how I see a lot of people viewing things now, especially with me too. I mean, I have a job and I have a wife and I have kids, and I just keep the whole separate hobby thing. I look at it as I'm okay. I'm proud to call it a hobby, because if I said, okay, now I want to work at it, well, then it actually becomes that. It actually becomes work, and it's not fun.
Yeah, and it's totally, there is, it's all the meaning behind words, and you could use the word hobby, or you could use the word, or you could be I don't use the word hobby. This is what I do, and I don't define myself by my job, and I don't define myself by my art either. But my art is very, very close to me, and the way that it's definitely been a struggle, and it's been a struggle for people to understand, especially people who are not used to this type of music, for them to be accepting that this is what I do, because it's not music. Music is what you turn on when you're about to go to a party. I wouldn't listen to this music before I went to a party. This is the type of music you listen to on your headphones outside your apartment on a Tuesday night at 2 o'clock in the morning, and having a smoke and knowing that you have to go to work the next day.
Yeah. Are you thinking ahead 2 years to what the future might hold for Bashful Hips?
At one point, I had made a decision that I would continue to do this till August of 2013. At this point right now, I can't commit that I'll stop doing it then. unless my life changes in a huge way, I don't really see myself stopping creating. Like, there would be, I think it would be great if there was a time to put a physical CD together of all the tracks that I think are the best. But at the same time, the digital record now is almost as well respected as the physical release. And for the future, you know, what I see is that, you know, either people, and it's definitely, I can tell from the website traffic and the radio, that people are getting into it. And I hope that continues to happen. And it would be great to make a living off of it and all that sort of stuff, but it's, I never want it to be, the thing about Bashful Hips is the second it stops being authentic is the second I'm going to stop. You know, the second it stops being authentic, I'm going to have to stop doing it, because that's what it's all about, is the authenticity of the feeling and of the records. So once it's not authentic anymore, I'm going to stop writing records every month and, you know, take the time to take a break. But as far as I can see, I don't really see things changing very, very much. So I feel like I'll continue to make these records, and then I hope that things do change and Bashful Hips can stay authentic. As long as it's authentic, I won't stop.
Like trying to read the future in tea leaves, or admiring the beauty in the trees, or ignoring the fact that your new apartment may have fleas. You've been trying to see rats and trash differently, and you've been trying to see rats and trash differently. Well, how's that going? And you readjust words and well-known terms. You look for truth in dirt and overturned moss. You've been doing it for so long, but you have a greater understanding of what it takes to move rocks. You've been trying to see rats and trash differently, and you've been trying to see rats and trash differently. Well, how's that going? And you actually believe it. And you actually believe it. You've been trying to see rats and trash differently. And you've been trying to see rats and trash differently. Well, how's that going? You've been trying to see rats and trash differently, and you've been trying to see rats and trash differently. Well, how's that going? And you actually believe it. And you actually believe it.
Closing out the interview, that's the track Kim Kardashian. That's from their latest release, Volume 10 of Bashful Hips, which has got a lot of titles of, let's call them celebrities. Kim Kardashian, Honey Boo Boo, Hulk Hogan, and Jerry Springer, etc., etc. The last song on it is Real World versus World Rules, the MTV shows. Never watched World Rules, but I watched a lot of Real World, so my vote is going to go on Real World. The conversation I had with Ian, I took a lot of thoughts away from that I thought I'd just want to wrap up the interview with. The digital racket, your digital racket can be therapeutic. Now, he talked a little bit about that, and he said maybe it's not necessarily therapeutic, but it helps him out. And I started thinking about that. Yeah, definitely doing these things, having our art, having our passions, and creating a product from that, I think that helps us out a lot. And that those people that just sit around and they do nothing, or let me put it this way. Your fantasy football team, as therapeutic as you want that to be, maybe creating art or something out of passion would actually be a little more beneficial. Yeah, let's put it that way. And then secondly, that he talked a lot about how it was just about getting material out there and not worrying about it being perfect or spending a lot of time editing it and really, just being tedious about it. Let's not be tedious about it. Let's just try and get it out there. The zine that I'm working on, it's taken me too long already, but when it comes out, it's not going to be perfect. I'm probably going to have some typos on it. But at the end of the day, it's just about, let's just get it out there, let people see it and enjoy it for what it is. And you want to feel like you should be perfect in all ways. But at the end of the day, I would say that I'll put, kind of my money on saying it's better just have it out there than not have it out there at all, which sometimes can be the case. Sometimes you can wait so long perfecting something that it doesn't actually get out there. You're on to the next thing already. Or you put it out there, but by the time you do, people have already moved on. And then what do you do then? What happens when the zine that I worked so hard on, I put out like 2 years from now and nobody really cares or even knows any of the bands I'm talking about? And that is it for thoughts, but let's move into my digital racket